Hello, everybody. All right. Perfect. Hello.
Hey, folks.
How's it going, everybody? Um, Today we've got me. I am Sarah and Lazar. I'm coming from Washington State here in the United States. Lazar?
I'm from Toronto, Canada.
Yeah. We were gonna have Salma here today, but she couldn't make it today, so it'll just be the two of us. Um, While we are waiting, a couple of things. There is a chat. Feel free to ask questions or just kind of add your thoughts into the chat. For now, if you want to go ahead and let us know where you're tuning in from in the chat. That way we know you can use it and everything like that. Um, so we'll get started a little after the hour just to make sure that everyone can join. For those of you who are joining early, though, hello, welcome. We're happy to have you here. Um, yeah, we're going to have a great time. This is a hands-on workshop. So the first few minutes is going to have some basic content, but then we do invite you to follow along with us. So get your favorite code editor out. I'm going to be using VS Code. We are going to be using GitHub to clone a repository, and we are going to be using Sentry to discover bugs and see if we've fixed them. So feel free to get your machine up and ready to go so that you can follow along. There will be time to follow along. The way that we do this workshop is Lazar is going to be our resident expert, and I'm going to be not playing an act. No, I'm going to be the person kind of following along the instructions and uh, inviting you all to follow along with me. So yeah, let us know where you're tuning in from. We've got someone from India. Welcome. We'll get started here in just a couple minutes. So feel free to ask questions. You can ask questions here in Zoom. We will also be somewhat monitoring the YouTube if you are watching there. If you did register for this event, we'll send you a link to this afterwards. Hello from Berlin. Welcome. All right. We'll spend maybe like one more minute. Singapore, San Francisco, Nepal, Toronto, Bay Area. I have a question. I hear like, is it in Toronto? Do people say Toronto or Toronto?
I guess that's how you know if they're from Toronto or not.
Because it's not a hard T.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah, Toronto.
Tronno.
Yeah. Toronto.
Toronto. Yeah. I
Toronto.
blend in. I'm not from Toronto, but I say Toronto. Yeah.
Nice. From the UK, India, LA. Awesome. New York. Welcome. All right. So we'll probably from Houston. Welcome. We'll probably get started here. I don't know about you all, but I am very happy because right now it's still overcast. It's supposed to, we're getting a heat wave the next 2 days. So I'm glad that at least for the workshop, we've got it to be a little bit overcast. All right, so this is what we're going to be doing today from Serbia. Welcome. We're going to go a little bit into kind of what monitoring is, at least kind of Sentry's perspective on that. We're going to show you the app that we're going to be debugging, and then we're going to kind of work through that together a little bit. And then it's your time to kind of do things on your own. So like I said, this is intended to be a hands-on workshop. We will take a break in the middle. It's intended to be a 2 hour workshop. So we'll see, exactly how long it is. We won't go over the 2 hours though. Kind of depends on how quickly we can find these bugs. And from Brazil, welcome. So be sure to get your code editor up and running. Like I said, I'm using VS Code. Get a browser out. We're going to be cloning from GitHub, and we will be using Sentry to help us debug. Shall we get started, Lazar?
Let's go. Yeah.
Yes, there is going to be a recording. So if you registered here on Zoom, we will send that to you. But yes, it will be available for you to share with your team later. Okay, monitoring. Before we jump in, we have a poll for you. If you're on, I think YouTube, we're also going to have the poll. And if you're in Zoom, we're going to start the poll now. So the question is, have you ever used an error monitoring tool before? Just yes or no. Go ahead and answer. Okay. It looks like here in Zoom, we're erroring on the side of yes. We're getting close to 50-50 now. Okay. All right. Awesome. So we're about 60% yes, 30%, 40% no, not much. Okay. Next question we have is if you have ever used an error monitoring tool before, how did you use it? And you can check all of the answers that apply here. So did you use it to help you debug code, either identify or fix bugs in the code? Did you track application performance? Did you use it for error alerting? So anytime an error occurred, it would notify the team. Did you use it to debug visual context with something like session replay? Okay. So a lot of people used it for error alerting. Second most popular is debugging. Makes sense. It's interesting. I've been thinking a lot about kind of what debugging really means, and whether performances should be considered, like slowdown should be considered errors. I don't know. What do you think, Lazar?
That tracks.
Yeah. I feel like if you have a slowdown, it's not likely intended, right?
Yeah.
So I would consider that an error, but yeah, it's maybe not like a coding error.
Yeah.
Um,
So we call them issues, right?
yeah,
It's not
exactly,
an error, but it's an issue.
exactly. Cool. So for those of you who haven't really used a monitoring tool before, essentially what we're talking about is the ability to monitor, to observe, to track what is happening in your app in the real world. So obviously, when you're writing code and you're running your tests, you're going to track some of those initial issues that you might have. Hopefully, you have either some QA folks or you as an engineer it is that QA and you're doing kind of your due diligence there. But of course, when we're out in the real world, when our applications are on hundreds of different types of devices on varying levels of connectivity, with varying levels of, memory or just kind of like reliability of connectivity. Other issues are gonna pop up. So whether those are errors because your users are using your app in a way that you never expected them to, and so they're finding that path of errors that you didn't test for, or you're encountering issues like performance slowdowns, that's what essentially a monitoring tool does, is help you identify those, maybe profile certain things, maybe alert your team so that you can fix them faster. Something like session replay is a tool that is often used. There can be individual kind of replay tools, but then also something like Sentry, which is, originally a monitoring tool, will have a feature like session replay that allows you to see a video-like reproduction of what your users were doing on your mobile or web app. And you can kind of see what was happening just before an error occurred, what happened afterwards, how did your app kind of resolve it visually, or kind of behind the scenes. And then you can trace those errors all the way down to the actual error. So that's typically kind of what monitoring tools do. If you have any other ways in which you want to share how you've leveraged monitoring tools, please feel free to add them into the chat. But we actually are kind of going beyond monitoring here at Sentry. We want to shift our thinking somewhere else. Monitoring, in our opinion, suggests that we're looking at things, that we're kind of sitting and waiting for something to alert us, and then we're just kind of watching or looking. And we don't want to just sit there as engineers looking at graphs and metrics and events. We don't want our time being spent passively. What we really need is a tool that helps us with debugging. So how can a monitoring tool help you move beyond passively monitoring events in your applications to actively helping you debug errors and issues? And, we just asked the poll question. It seems like a lot of you actually leverage monitoring tools to help you debug. But at Sentry, we really are focused on an engineer persona, someone who is actively trying to debug, fix, and move on to the next feature set or next product set or whatever it is that you're working on. We don't want you sitting there and just watching events and metrics and spending all your time looking at graphs. We want you to leverage that information as quickly as possible, take action, and make kind of decisions so that you can make those changes and push those fixes. So we really do this at Sentry in 3 steps. There's kind of 3 ways in which we try to leverage this. So basically, debugability. That's how we like to measure, or that's how we like to describe Sentry, as a debugability tool. And first, when you're debugging, you need to understand the context around what is happening. So in the case of, our applications, what context matters? I would say it's probably what browser, operating system, device triggered the event. Like, is this happening on our mobile app? Is this happening only on Android, or is this also happening on Apple devices? Is this happening on really old Android devices? There's a really great talk by Henri Helvetica, he goes by on social media, about like the number of Android devices that are in use in the world today. I think sometimes when you are working in tech, maybe predominantly in kind of the North America West Coast time zone, you forget that people around the world are using just hundreds of different types of devices that aren't necessarily up to date or using the latest hardware or have the most effective connectivity. So knowing what devices are triggering the event will help you understand where that event might be occurring or where you might need to optimize performance for various users. You also, in terms of contextualization, need to know what were all the things happening right before an error occurred. Again, session replay can help with this and understanding kind of what the user was doing right before an error occurred, but also being able to understand, did a database call actually succeed right before the error occurred? Did a connection to a service actually happen right before an error occurred? Or are those things the reason why the error occurred, for example? You likely need to know what line of code triggered the error. This is maybe obvious, but not always available to you in monitoring tools. So Sentry really prioritizes that, being able to actually see the line of code, not the throw error line of code, but the line of code that triggered that, be able to open it up quickly in GitHub and kind of leverage that. How many users are experiencing the issue? This is tricky. Oh, I think Henri's here. Shout out. This is tricky. How many users are experiencing the issue is really important because we can't fix every single error all at once, right? And so if you have multiple errors, knowing whether or not an error is affecting a lot of users or maybe just a few users might be important information. Is the issue impacting revenue? Again, we can't fix every single error all at once. So being able to know whether or not this issue is affecting your bottom dollar it unfortunately does matter. Fortunately, unfortunately does matter. So that information. And then also, is it that the like app or website is crashing entirely? So kind of like what is happening after the error happened? Or is your app or website like recovering well? Hello, Henri, welcome. That's important because again, maybe you aren't able to fix the error right away, or maybe this is going to take a lot more time than just a quick fix, but maybe a recovery is possible. So, especially with big organizations, errors and issues can get really noisy. And having all of this information is really important, but it is also a lot of information to sift through. And again, we don't want you just kind of trying to decipher that. We want you to be able to take action as quickly as possible. And every single developer in your organization doesn't want to be alerted to every single issue happening in every single one of your applications. And so the next most important thing that we focus on here at Sentry is prioritization. So I kind of alluded to this in talking about like how many users are experiencing your error, whether the issue is impacting revenue, et cetera. But having that information and then being able to leverage that as quickly as possible to know which issues or errors you need to prioritize is critical. Again, we don't want you wasting time trying to just go down a rabbit hole that isn't as important as one that is mission critical. So whether it's prioritizing an issue based on those users or types of users that it's affecting, or just reducing the number of people who are being alerted for every given issue, this type of prioritization is critical. So at Sentry, we have like team or team member or Slack channel alerts. And so you can specify at what point which people get alerted. You can automatically assign people to issues. You can leverage things like GitHub code owners to determine which people should be alerted. So is it the person who committed that code that should be alerted, or is it the person who's listed as the code owner who's now in charge of maintaining that code that should be alerted? Do you even want to be alerted to that issue at all? Maybe it is an issue that is known and someone is working on it. And so you're like, you know what? We don't need to know that this is happening every single time it happens. We're fixing it. Just leave us alone for a minute. So that ability to kind of be alerted and be able to quickly prioritize what issues you want to resolve first is critical. And then the third thing is the ability to trace. So when you do get alerted to an issue and you know based off of the context that it is something that you want to prioritize and you do open Sentry, tracing is the core of debuggability. It is the most important thing to be able to quickly trace the issue from just before it happened, knowing what's going on, to all the way down to the line of code, when it was calling external services or other services that you own, when it was, communicating with the database, et cetera. You want to be able to leverage a trace view to inspect every single event that led up to that trace across all of those distributed apps and services. This will allow you to know exactly what went wrong, where, and why. So we don't want you to have to dig through logs to try to figure that out. Instead, we make a very easy way for you to kind of trace these issues and follow and figure out what's going on. Also, I kind of alluded to this earlier, but we don't want you spending time trying to recreate the issue locally. As we mentioned, even if you were able to do that effectively, you're not likely using the same device that the users who triggered that issue were using. If for sure you are, go ahead, try it on your own machine. But that's why I've been giving a couple talks lately. Like it worked on my iPhone 15 Pro Max. Yeah, if it works on your fancy device, it's probably fine, but like it's not fine for everybody. So we as a debuggability tool have all the information and context that you need to be able to quickly leverage that information and context and understand with things like session replay exactly what was happening on those devices and be able to work on a fix immediately. Okay, so that's a little bit about Sentry and a little bit about debuggability. We could show off a demo app and show off Sentry, Lazad, or we could jump into just some bad code. What do you think?
Let's get into some bad code and then we can demo Sentry through the lenses of
I
that
like it.
project. Yeah.
I like it. Okay, so let's do this. Are you all ready? Take a breath. We're going to start cloning a repo. Okay, so this is a flashcard app that Lazad built. It's using Next.js, and you can find it on github.com/Nikolov/Lazad/flashcards. The link is, will bad code give me an upset stomach? Maybe just sip some water. That's what I'm going to be doing for sure. But this is a demo app, so it's not fair, it's not too complex or anything like that. But we have introduced some bugs, and I'm sure there are some bugs that we didn't introduce. No offense, Lazar. So we're gonna get started. I want you to clone this repository, and then we're gonna do these setup steps, and then we're going to explore a little bit. We're going to run it and we're going to see what's going on. So I'm going to do all this with you. We have the repository there in the comments, and I'm going to throw these steps in the comments as well, because I'm going to exit out of here and I'm going to just go ahead and clone this repository myself. All right, so we're going to grab that, and then I'm going to open up VS Code, and I'm going to clone repository, and we'll go ahead and clone from here. And where are we going to put this? Let's put that right in there. And we're going to open it all right in here. Okay, so I have now cloned the repository in VS Code. We can install, I guess. Why don't we just not do that for a minute? We're going to go ahead and open up a new terminal. And no, we don't need to update right this second. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I've got the repository cloned, and I've opened up a terminal. You can see this is a fairly straightforward Next.js repository, and it does not have, we do not have Sentry in here yet. Okay, so we're going to run it first and just make sure we know what this app even does. So assuming you've already cloned it, we're going to run npm install.
We forgot to pray to the demo gods before
We
starting
did.
this. Yeah.
We did. But I'm
Live
feeling
coding is
lucky.
scary.
I'm feeling lucky today. I don't know. Then we're going to run this script that Lazad made to make it a little bit easier so we don't have to do the whole npx prisma migrate, blah, 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 blah. Instead, we just have to run npm run seed. And that's going to seed our database with some data. Awesome. And then we're going to run npm run build and npm run start. So we're going to build our app and then we're going to start it up.
This basically emulates the production environment locally.
All right. And then we can go ahead and open up localhost 3000, and we should see this. If you are following along, can you let me know in the chat if you've reached the point of being able to run this locally? You can just say yep or nope or almost. Awesome. Cool. See, demo gods are in our favor today. All right, so this is a flashcard app. We've got certain categories over here. And then we've got some flashcards over here. We can manage them. That's where we're at right now. We can see that from our URL. or we can practice them. So we can choose a category here. And I don't even know. Let's go ahead and choose that. Sure. We start a practice session.
This
Mhm.
this app basically the demo data is for store employees. So these are all stores, and the questions are products, and the answers should be what aisle that product is. So where do you think the gorgeous wooden towels are? What aisle?
I don't know what a wooden towel is to
It's a
begin.
towel made of wood. Yeah.
That's insane. Why would you want a towel made of wood? I
So
can't wrap it around me.
yeah. So I guess it's like the home
Yeah, like maybe
aisle.
home decor or something.
No, it's in
Garden.
the garden. Yeah, it belongs
What?
in the garden.
What? I don't even know. Handcrafted plastic bacon?
Yeah, this
What
is an
is
easy
this?
one.
What is this? This must be in the like dog aisle?
No, it's in
Game?
the games. Yeah.
What kind of game can you play with plastic bacon? Ergonomic granite hat.
Okay.
Garden. Garden. What?
Industrial.
I don't know what this
It's
is. Okay.
granite.
I don't know. I don't know. All right. So here we've got, where did you even get this data? Did you just make it all up? This is, I don't know if I want to go to your stores, Lazan.
Yeah. What's fun is that everyone will have a different set of data.
Love it. Love it. I love it. Cool. So, a licensed granite shirt is in home. Awesome. Very cool. Bespoke process. Okay. Anyways, so here we've got this, and I feel like maybe there was something funky going on because there was like something slow, but maybe that's just my computer. Who knows? We won't actually know anything until we install Sentry.
Yeah.
So, someone asked for 5 minutes to get theirs working. We still have the instructions here in the chat. So just clone the repository, run the three npm commands, npm install, npm run seed, npm run build with the npm run start, and you should see all of this. If anyone else has any questions, let me know. The next step is going to be installing Sentry. So we're going to jump into that next. I'm just going to put this up here. We need to first sign up for Sentry. So to sign up for Sentry, you can go here. I'm going to put this in the chat. It's just bit.ly/try-sentry-sep4, which is today. So sign up for Sentry first, because otherwise you're not going to be able to actually see kind of what's going on, unless you have an account. You can sign up for a free account. So if you didn't know, Sentry really, like I mentioned, prioritizes the developer. So that means all the way, like we basically have options for whatever size your team is. If you're an individual developer, you can sign up for free. We have a free developer plan. If you want to host Sentry yourself, we are source available. You can just host Sentry yourself, no problem. If you start out as an indie developer, or you are representing a team, but you want to give it a try first and you sign up as a developer, you can upgrade to a business account, and it just kind of grows with you. We have, like I mentioned, free developer plans. We have business team plans, and then we also have enterprise plans. So no matter how small your operation is, all the way to people like Disney, or I don't know, some of our really big um, uh, customers, whether you're just an individual developer or you're a large customer like Disney, we can support you. Someone asked, why Sentry? What's the problem that you want to solve with it? That's a great question. So as I mentioned kind of at the beginning, we identify as a debuggability tool. And so why Sentry? To help you be able to debug what is actually happening on your users, like what is your users are actually experiencing, versus just relying on the tests that you might have or the QA that you're doing on your local machines. You want to be able to actually see what your app is doing while it's in production, being used worldwide on any device, and be able to resolve those issues as quickly as possible. So to be able to contextualize whether they're errors or performance issues, to be able to prioritize which issues you want to focus on first, and then be able to trace those issues all the way down to that root cause so that you can fix it as quickly as possible and kind of move on. So what's the problem that we're trying to solve with Sentry? Essentially reducing the amount of time that we're spending debugging by helping you get all of that information and fix bugs faster. For this particular experience, we're about to show you where the bugs are and or kind of give you hints to find the bugs. And we want you to try to figure those out. Okay, so I'm assuming that you all have already cloned the repository, you got it up and running, and you've signed up for Sentry. Create a new project in Sentry, and then run the setup wizard. So to create a new project in Sentry, it's fairly easy. Sorry, the little thing is popping up here. So you can just head over to projects and you click on create new project right here. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new Next.js project. There you are, Next.js. You can set up alerts right now if you want to. These can always be changed in the future, so no worries. You can just leave it as the default, which is alert me on high priority issues. You can see some of the ways in which we help you find the right level of alerts that you want. So, for example, you could do when there are more than 10 occurrences of a unique error within 1 minute. I'd recommend not doing that for this workshop because you'd have to then make those errors happen 10 times in 1 minute. So maybe just on high priority issues. And then I'll create my own alerts later. You can also do that one instead. We can name this. I'm just going to name it Next.js September 4th. Let's just name it that. And then choose the team. It's likely the team that you just created if you just signed up for Sentry. We'll go ahead and create project. This wizard, setup wizard, is this command is the same one that we have in the chat. So when you are setting up a new project, you can head over to the docs that we also put there in the chat. Here, let me just show you real quick. So we've got the docs right here specifically for Next.js. Again, you need a Sentry account and the project, and then you can run our setup wizard to get the latest SDK. So all of that information is right there for you. Okay, so we've got this setup wizard here. Your setup wizard or our setup wizard will automatically do all of these things for you. So we'll go ahead and run that and we'll check it out. You can also manually set up, but I would rather just use a wizard.
Who wants that?
Right? More work, really? All right. Do it. Hang on. I keep switching between computer types and keyboards and control versus command. And okay, so it's going to install the following packages, which is the latest Sentry wizard. I'm going to go ahead and click yes for that. And then it's going to ask us some questions. Let me make this a little bit bigger for you all. All right. So are you using Sentry SaaS or self-hosted? So if you signed up on the website right now, then you're likely using Sentry SaaS. If somehow in the last couple minutes you managed to self-host Sentry, then you can change that, but I doubt that's the case. So we're going to go ahead and click on SaaS. Do you already have a Sentry account? Yes, I do. It's going to open up your browser and authenticate with your Sentry account. So if you did sign up and log in just now, then that should be as easy as it was for me. Then it's going to ask us to select our Sentry project. So if you just signed up, you'll likely just have the one project you just created. Since I've done this a few times and I'm part of a few different orgs, we're going to have to just kind of scroll a little bit. We've got our demo org, which is actually not the one that we're using. We're using our Sentry DevRel org this time. You can see how many times we've done flashcards. And I'm going to go ahead and go to Next.js September 4. And that'll automatically connect up our local environment with our Sentry project. So we don't have to do anything. Okay, so do we want to route Sentry requests in the browser through Next.js server to avoid ad blockers? I'm going to say yes for this purpose. Do you want to enable React component annotations to make breadcrumbs and session replays more readable? So essentially what this does, Lazar, actually, do you want to, you give a great talk on RSCs. So do you want to
Yeah, of
explain that?
course. Yeah, so basically the SDK will annotate the React components. So when you open the breadcrumbs and also open the session replays later, instead of having like for example, a div with a class name that is, if you're using Tailwind, you'll see like a bunch of Tailwind classes. Even though it belongs to a React component, if you don't do this, it'll just be another div. So you won't be able to easily identify where in the project that element is, whether the user clicked on it or the user selected some text inside of it. Both breadcrumbs and session replays will show that. But if you don't do this, you'll just have divs and inputs without any specific names. This will annotate those components for you. So it does add to the bundle size because it needs to set up the annotator and scan your code base and annotate every component. But it's worth it. Totally.
I agree. I'm going to say yes.
Hmm.
Do you want to enable tracing to track the performance of your application? Yes, that's kind of the whole point of this workshop is to be able to trace issues from front end to back end. Excuse me. Do you want to enable session replay to get reproduction of your front end errors via user sessions? Again, these things can increase your bundle size. You can always make changes to these things in the future. So for this purposes, we're going to say yes. Do you want to create an example page to test your Sentry setup? I mean, it doesn't hurt. We can do that. What do you think, Lazad?
I usually say no, but yeah, it's
We can
it's it's an
try it.
option. Yeah, you can see.
Yeah, let's try it. Are you using a CI/CD tool to build and deploy your application like GitHub Actions, GitLab? We're not for this one, right?
Not for this one. Yeah.
Not for
This
this
is
one.
this is for the source maps uploader.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I can talk about source maps a little bit.
Please.
When you trigger an error in production, you get like a log in the console in the browser. And if you see that log, it's usually gibberish, right? You can't really understand. It's like a dot b dot something. It's all like minified and it's all obfuscated, and you don't really know where in your code base that error happened. So source maps are basically like recipes on how to unwrap or unminify and unobfuscate those little errors so it can reconstruct your code base from an error, right? And you need these source maps. These are like external files that sit next to your JavaScript files. They're like .js.map. And in order for Sentry to show you meaningful data and help you debug instead of just showing you a.b and some error happened there, it needs to get those source maps from you. So if you're building your application in a CI/CD tool, um, you would need to upload the source maps that will get generated as part of your npm run build script and upload them to Sentry. So in order to prevent a different project uploading, demo or dummy source maps to your account, and then you get billed for that, you need an API key, and that API key is going to be put in a special file. If you say yes, the file will be created. If you say no, it will be created again, but it'll just be created locally and added to the git ignore so you don't actually push your API key because that's bad.
Yes, not good. So we're gonna say no here.
Yeah.
Okay, and then it's successfully installed the Sentry Next.js SDK. So we can
Beautiful.
go see, remember it said that what we did or what it was going to do was create our server config, client config, edge config, with all of the default Sentry and Net stuff, create or update the instrumentation.ts, create or update our Next.js config, create an environment file for our Sentry build plugin, which is where our auth token is.
That's the API key.
Yeah, and then create our example page. So we can go ahead and check that out over here. We can see all of the new stuff that just got added. We've got all of our config files here. We have an updated package.json and our Next.js config updated .get ignore, and then a new, there's the instrumentation, and then a new Sentry example page right here. So we can actually go to that one if we want to. We are still running it locally, so
Just need to rebuild it.
That's right, thank you. This is why we have two people. Can you make this a little bit smaller just so I can see better?
That's not an error.
No, yeah.
I think it's you need to use node v20. You're most likely using v22, but it's
Oh, hang on.
because we want to showcase the minification thing. That's why we're running it with build and start instead of dev. Because when we do dev, Sentry dash example page. Yeah, if we just do dev, it's all gonna be unminified. It's just gonna be raw, and that's not going to be the case when you put your app to production. So we want to mimic production as close as we can. That's why we're doing build and start. But of course, if you're developing your application, you're not gonna do build and start. You're just gonna do dev.
Yep. Okay, so let me know if everyone was able to install Sentry and get to localhost 3000/Sentry-example-page. You should see this, which is basically just our Sentry logo, and it says get started by sending us a sample error, and you can click this button. Before I click that button though, I went back over to my Sentry account and I just clicked on go to issues. You can also just click up here on kind of the issues tab over in the side menu. And you'll see we don't have anything here right now, just the same kind of setup instructions. So let me know in the chat if you've gotten there. Awesome. Looks like some folks are. If you're watching on YouTube, you can let us know as well. We're taking a look at that as well. All right, so it looks like a few of us have gotten there. You'll want to rebuild the Next.js app, not just refresh the page, because a new page got added. No problem.
I think Kemet asked, can I just use a fresh Next.js app, like just create
Oh,
Next.js? Yeah.
thank you. I read, can I just refresh the
Yeah.
next app? Thank you.
I guess for this part you can, but like the next part of the workshop, we're just gonna work in the flashcards application. Yeah.
Yeah, we've set up a few errors in the flashcards app. So if you want to just use one, that's fine, but you may not have any errors in it.
All right, let's hit that button.
All right.
Smash the throw error button.
Let's throw an error here. And we'll head back over to Sentry and refresh a couple times. Oh, good. I did click it twice. I wasn't positive if it clicked the first time. And we can see an error right here. So this is our issues tab. This is kind of our, can't get anything to load on localhost. Oh, that's strange. Make sure that you've run everything. And Lazad will throw the repository link and the install init and build and start all in the chat again one more time. And yeah, maybe there is another project that's open on the same port. Weird, it doesn't connect. Okay. That is strange. If only I could use Sentry to help debug this. All right, so this is our issues tab. So you've seen so far just kind of where you create a new Sentry project. This is where we see our issues. We can get a bit of information here from the top. We can see that we've had an error specifically on this get. It's this type of error, an API route error. We can see it's part of this project because you could be looking at multiple projects all at once. So we specify which project it is. We can see whether or not this error was handled, when it was last seen, and when it was first seen. In this case, this is the current session that I'm running, so it's all last and first seen at the same time. Whether this is a new error, how many times this error has happened in the last 14 days. Why 14 days? Because that's the range that we have here. You can actually have a custom range, though. You could say the last hour, the last 2 hours, a specific date. So if you know that specifically, you want to see what was happening this time because it's a holiday last year and where there was, bigger hits on your site or something like that, more performance slowdowns, and you can kind of see that. If you know that there was a particular day when there was a lot of users who were reporting issues, you could specifically look at that day, etc. I used my company account to create my Sentry project, but I don't see traces and metrics as an option on the left menu. That is because those two are in beta, so I'm using my Sentry account. Unfortunately, there isn't an easy way for me to have GitHub connected onto both my corporate and personal account. So you may not have this. This is for early adopters, but will be available later. You still will have access to the trace view though, just not this specific tab. What to do in this step, add the Sentry authentication token. So if you are using the wizard, you shouldn't have to do anything. All you do is run the wizard and it'll do everything for you. So that's what I would recommend doing in this case. Okay, it also tells you how many users this was affecting. I don't know why this says 0. I think that's a funky thing with the way that I clicked it twice. And then whether this is a high priority issue, a medium priority issue, or a low priority issue. We do make decisions for you on whether or not, or like at what priority level this is based on the type of application this is, how many times this error has been seen, etc. But you can always change that if you have more context and know what the error is. And then finally, whether or not this issue is assigned and to who, you can assign it directly from right in here. So I can assign this to Lazad right now if I wanted to. And you can also do auto assigning through issue owner rules. So we can just take a look at that here. You just go into settings, ownership rules, and like I mentioned before, that you can set up your rules specifically. You can customize those rules on your own. So for example, you could do it based off of a specific path. You could do it based off of a module, a URL, a specific tag that you might be using. You can also do it based off of, like I mentioned before, code owners. And then for the owner or a list of owners, you can identify those through the email address that people have used for their Sentry account or the name of the team. And then you can edit ownership rules in here and leverage code owners if you'd like.
This is really cool because I think it comes from GitHub. Maybe the
Yeah,
GitHub
you
code
can,
owners. Yeah.
the code owners does. Yeah, you can make your own ownership rules that are just Sentry specific, but yeah, the code owners you could just pull in from GitHub, which is
Yeah.
awesome.
And it's cool that your team might already be using the code owners file to assign issues in GitHub. So Sentry can just pull that in, parse it, and it'll just let you map the GitHub users with your Sentry users. So also issues in Sentry will be automatically assigned, which is it's just magic.
Yeah. And we say GitHub, also GitLab.
Of
So
course.
yeah. Awesome. So that's a little bit about kind of this. There are ways where you can have your own custom tags, and then you can leverage this custom search with those custom tags. So these are some of the basic tags that we automatically include. Things like the browser, the operating system, the user, etc. But you can create your own custom tags as well, and then you can leverage those in your search also. So let's take a look at what an error looks like. So this is that error, and this is kind of the issue details page. So you'll see here we have that another issue appears on the same trace. So that same issue we had we saw over here, we saw that there was two issues. So one was an API route error and one was an example front end error. So we can take a look at those, and both of those are showing up on the same trace. We can actually view the entire trace here. So you can see kind of where errors are happening and get more information about what's going on. So we get the full stack trace here. I can kind of move this over and we can see what is going on right here from this trace view page. So this is something that you should be able to see. I know someone was mentioning if they're not a part of the early adopters, they don't see this traces tab, but this trace view is part of that issue details, and you should still be able to see that here. Here's all of those tags. You can see we don't have any custom tags, but these are just kind of the tags that we have. So you can see what I'm using right now. I'm using Chrome version 127. I'm on a Mac. This is in production level environment, an unhandled error. The level is error. We can see the specific operating system I'm on, which release this was a part of, the specific transaction, what the URL was, and then my IP. So we get a lot of information all from right inside of this trace. We can also get some other information like web vitals. So if this is a web app, you'll get all of the web vitals that you might expect. And then this is just kind of the trace details. So we'll go back over the issue details.
Sarah, I don't know about you, but I like my trace panel at the bottom.
Ah, like when you're looking at the full trace.
Yeah. There's like the second icon on the right side.
Yep.
Yeah, much better if you ask me.
I like that. That is pretty. Yeah, you can kind of decide how you want to do it. I agree though. I think this is much better because you want to get as much kind of space left to right. Horizontal space is the word I was looking for. What is the example page URL? It is localhost, thank you, 3000 Sentry-example-page. Okay, so back in the issue details page, we're going to get some event highlights. So again, these are kind of like some of the tags that you might find. Here is our stack trace. So this is where the error was thrown. And if we set up code mappings, we'd actually be able to connect this up to GitHub and get additional information here that is more useful. We can see the replay. So this is an example of what session replay looks like. You can see that I clicked over, and actually, let me make this a little bit bigger. So first of all, something that you'll notice is all of the asterisks here in our replay. So this is a video-like reproduction, essentially leveraging the DOM to be able to see, like, create this video of what happened. We actually recently released session replay for mobile as well. So you get this for mobile experiences also. We take privacy extremely seriously here at Sentry. We, for example, even on our marketing sites, we don't collect cookies. We don't track cookies because we don't want to infringe on your privacy as you're just kind of browsing our site. We take privacy extremely seriously, and that goes all the way to session replay as well. Out of the box, session replay will automatically obfuscate text, images, and inputted information. You can go in and unobfuscate specific things. So if you know for a fact that this page or these buttons or the images do not contain any sensitive information, then yes, you can unobfuscate them to make it easier for you to debug. But we want to start with the most important thing first, which is making sure that we don't accidentally get user information in. So anytime users input information, who knows? They could put in their address or their phone number or their in the state's social security number, right? And we don't want that to happen. So we obfuscate everything kind of out of the box. Nope, nope, Jack. Sorry, dogs. Okay, so you'll notice that right here, but you do actually see, oops, you do actually see kind of what is where my mouse was that I clicked once, I clicked twice. There we go, there's the other click. We can see that information right here. So before I even clicked, it looked like there was a example front end error. And then there was a dead click. We have what's called dead clicks and rage clicks. So in fact, I'll show you what a rage click looks like as well. We'll just come in here and I'll just kind of rage click a little bit. A rage click is basically when you get a lot of clicks all at once and nothing is really happening. A dead click is when you click at least once and nothing happened. Names maybe are obvious why. Rage click is likely someone was angry and they didn't, something wasn't working. So let me go into hopefully the last error that just got added. Perfect. So that we can see the replay with the rage click as well, which I don't know. Did the replay not
That's on a
happen?
server.
What,
Yeah, that's the backend part error.
oh, because but it should have, okay, let me try refreshing then.
No, the error that you showed was the backend one.
Oh, I grabbed the wrong error. Thank
Yeah,
you. Thank you.
try the second one.
Yes. Oh, and look, there was the rage click right there. So we can see the rage click is right here. It's its own error. We can see the full trace of what was happening. We still get all of that same information that we had before. So you can see that this is still part of that same issue. And yeah, so let's take a look at this one.
And because the rage click was an issue, you also get an email whenever someone, abuses your application. Someone rage clicks in your application.
Yes, exactly. So we can get some additional information right in here. When you click on these buttons down here, or these kind of like icons down here at the very bottom, you get these colorful bubbles basically kind of tell you the different types of actions that are happening. So this like purple one is a user action. That's I clicked into the screen. I didn't click anywhere specific. It wasn't a button. I just clicked. Then there's a red icon to indicate that there was an error. We can actually click into it to go to that specific error. Then there was a dead click on the button. Then there was an error there, and there was another dead click on the button. So we can see all of that information all from right inside of the replay. When you're not in that full view, full screen view is the word I was looking for. These are the breadcrumbs that you saw when we were in that full screen view, but you also have console logs. So if any console logs were happening during that session replay, they'll show up here. You can see any network requests. So we had 2 GET requests to the Sentry example API, and those were the 2 times that I clicked the button. You can see the errors, you can see the full trace, and accessibility is something that's in alpha. So for early adopters, it'll help you detect any accessibility problems.
My favorite thing about the trace tab is that it follows along with the
Yes.
play it, and you'll see like a little playhead in the trace view as things happen. See?
I love it.
Insane.
I love it. So basically you can see that however you're going to want to debug, everyone kind of debugs differently. It doesn't matter whether you're going to start with the replays and you want to just go to specifically, I don't care what was happening, just let me see. That's how I work. I work better when I can see what's happening and then I can dive deep. Or maybe you want to start specifically from the issue. You're like, you know what, let me just look at the stack trace. Let me understand, kind of contextualize this in terms of tags or additional information, or you want to just jump straight into traces. Basically, any way that you want to debug, all of the information is going to be there, and you can kind of get to it at any point. Okay. I think that's a lot of what we wanted to show you in terms of Sentry. I think maybe we take a short break and then we start bug bashing.
I guess we should just give the people a few hints when it comes to,
True. Maybe not everybody wants to take a break.
bugs. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot, so maybe we do, but okay, so this is what we're going to do. Yes, there is a lot of things to click. That's a good feedback. Again, when you are, let me see if I can quickly find the alerting. So ideally, you're not just kind of sitting in here and like waiting for things to happen. Ideally, what's happening instead is you are, sorry, I'm trying to remember how to open this up in a way, open a new window. There we go. Okay. So ideally, you're getting alerted in some kind of way. So you can see right here that for the rage click, well, for the last couple things, I got some Sentry alerts for this specific project. So you can see right in here, this is my Slack. Yes, this recording will be available for later. You can see I got a Slack message from Sentry that said that 2 issues were detected today in this project. There was an error on this page here. This was what the error was. And there was also an error on this page here. And this is what the error was. You can actually click into these and those will take you directly to that error, which will give you some of that context to be able to start to figure out what was going on. You can also see that when we did do the rage click, we got that as well. So since that is an error, we can see specifically that the rage click happened, and that'll take us directly into the rage click issue specifically, and we can get that information. So ideally, what you're not doing is just kind of like leaving Sentry open and waiting for all of the information and trying to sift through it all. Ideally, what's happening is that you set up alerts. You get an alert either through email or through Slack or whatever system that you're using. We have just an enormous amount of, I think it's integrations. Is it 4 integrations or just, there we go. An enormous amount of integrations between GitHub, Jira, Slack, Microsoft Teams, PagerDuty, Asana, Bitbucket, just literally just like everything, whatever you want. If it's specifically notifications, here's the ones that we send notifications to. So ideally, you're getting a specific notification and you're starting from there with some context. So the issues that you are seeing, if you, for example, got the notification of the rage click, you'll jump into this first, and then you will decide where you want to kind of start with that issue. So maybe what you want to do is start by watching and seeing what the person did, and maybe what was going on. Maybe you want to decide, oh, you know what, this is a Chrome example. I know who the person on my team is handling our web app. Maybe this is specifically like maybe you specifically have users set up and you in other apps you'll have a user like the email address and you're like, oh my gosh, this is a huge account. I need to send this over to this specific team to debug. Or maybe this is something that you can leverage and you can start kind of debugging on your own. So yes, there can be a lot, but ideally you're getting a notification that sends you directly to the place with enough context for you to take the next step. That's kind of what, at any given point, we want you to be able to take the next step. Okay, so we're going to kick off this bug bash battle. And the way that this works is we're going to share give you a couple hints. In the local version of the flashcard app that you have, you should be able to find some bugs. So use the app, try it out, see if you can find some bugs. Ideally, you have Sentry set up already with your local version. So even if you don't have notifications, you can just play around with the flashcard app and then essentially try to trigger an error. You can go back to the issues tab in Sentry, just refresh it, see if any error showed up. If you want, you can jump into setting up an integration and an alert if you want to try that out. We're going to take about a 10-minute break. Lazar and I will still be here, but we might like run and grab some water real quick. And feel free to ask questions in the chat. And I probably won't take a full 10 minutes. I'm just going to fill up my water. And then I'm going to start trying to find some bugs. And Lazar is going to kind of guide me through that. So you won't be doing this alone. I think we're going to give you some hints, though. Are we ready for some hints? Maybe like at least one hint.
That's good one.
Let's start with one hint. Okay, so you remember the flashcard app, right? And basically it's just filling in stores and kind of their so the category is that store, and then an item will be kind of the front of the flashcard, and then the back of the flashcard that you're testing yourself on is what aisle that item would end up in. So as I fill up my water, try adding something else as a category. See what happens. All right. And then see if an error gets triggered. See if you can figure out what the error is. See if you can make the fix for the error locally. And then try adding it again and see if that error gets resolved. All right. I'm going to go fill up my water. And I'll be right back. All right. How's it going? Oh, no. Don't look at all the hints. Oh, all right. So I'm going to try to do that now. Oh, this Zoom little thing is really irritating. Okay, I'm going to head back over to my flashcard. I'm going to go to manage and I'm going to try to add Zara. Okay, that seemed to work. Did I get any issues over in Sentry? No. All right, so that seemed to work. Let's see, did it get added over here? I don't see it anywhere. If I were to add in a flashcard, can I choose Zara? Huh. Okay, so that didn't actually get added. Interesting. So now I'm gonna head back into Sentry.
I feel like as a user, you should tell the developers of the application you're trying to create a,
You know, that would be nice.
yeah,
Should we do that?
let's do that.
Okay. All right. So I'm the person who made that. Well, I'm not, but Lazar is the person who made this, and I just closed localhost. Um, but I know how this is made, and I'm an engineer, so I know that an error probably happened. But a user is probably just like, WTF, this just didn't work, right? Like, I don't know what's going on. The category I wanted to add didn't get added. I didn't get an error message. I didn't get anything. It just didn't get added. Okay. Um, if I were in Sentry, I don't even think I got an error.
There's no error. Yeah.
Well, so I would never know as the developer building this, I would never know that this error happened.
This is that
Uh,
type of bug. Yeah. There's no
and
error, but the app just doesn't work.
yeah. Um, Yeah, so the error that I think Sasha just said this too, when creating a category was not sent to Sentry. So this is a situation like if you're getting a slowdown, yeah, maybe we could detect that. If you've got a button that's being clicked that isn't doing anything, yeah, maybe we could detect that. But there are some errors that just aren't actual code errors. And so this is a scenario where we might want to leverage user feedback. So user feedback is basically exactly what it sounds like. It's a small widget that allows you to automatically add in this like widget over your app where people can send in feedback. And the nice thing about it is that it'll actually connect up with all of the additional contextual information that Sentry provides. And it's really easy. This actually is what makes our job fairly simple as advocates here at Sentry is like a lot of the stuff is really easy. You saw that installing and using the wizard was fairly simple. Although there was that one issue that I really want to figure out. Setting up user feedback is also fairly simple. So Lazar just shared the user feedback docs in the chat. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to add this in there. So we just need this feedback integration, and we just need to go to the Sentry client config and add that in. So we're going to go over to VS Code, and we've got right here the Sentry client config. And we can see that we've got Sentry feedback integration, and you can use the system color scheme. So I think we just need to add that in right here. Can we not just
You gotta make sure that you add it to the client config integrations array and not the
yeah,
server because this is like a UI widget and you want to install that in the client integrations, not in the server, right? Because the server, there's no UI in the server, right?
yeah,
So uh, that's an honest mistake that you can make, but just be mindful that, integrations, even though we're talking about Next.js and like Next.js is just one project, it is, but there's different environments. So the feedback integration only works inside of the client environment, aka the browser, right? Because it
yeah,
needs the DOM.
yes. Do we not, this already happened when we used the wizard. Um,
Most likely. Let's see.
Pretty sure, 99% sure. So if you wanted to see kind of where it shows up, it's just kind of like this. And I'm going to go ahead and rebuild and restart.
I should have picked a different hint for the first one.
For the
Because
first
we're
one, so we
starting
wouldn't
in
have to do
yeah,
user
we're starting in
feedback for
hot
stuff.
with like a hard bug that doesn't produce an error, so you can really
Yeah.
see it. So you'll be like, okay, maybe I
That's
should use
true.
the feedback integration. So yeah, that's pretty hard. But yeah, let's check it out. There we go.
All right, so right down here, you can see this little report a bug now. So we just restarted this and rebuilt it. So I'm actually going to retry to put in Zara. Gonna click create. We're gonna see that it says category created down here, but it didn't actually work. We're gonna try to create a flashcard and see if Zara is there. It is not. So this is the case where I'm gonna click on report a bug. And I'm gonna say, Sarah, sure. Oops. Um, I cannot add a new category. It says successful, but then doesn't do anything. Okay, you can also add in a screenshot. So this would allow you to take a screenshot of what was happening in the app at that time. This ability to resize the screenshot was actually something that the intern on our team this summer added in, which is really nice. That would really bother me before. In this case, the screenshot's not super useful because you can't really show the issue, uh, here, but we'll add it in just for demonstration. Emily said, I wish bug reports were that detailed from users. Why don't we just say something isn't working? Because that's a good point. Can you reposition the location of the bug widget or style it? Yes, you can actually do all of that. I believe it's all on the thing here. So for example, you can change also what kind of information you're getting from it. You can change the add in additional context to things. And then here's the modal. You can actually change what it looks like as well. It's a
It's in the
render.
configuration page
I
on
think so,
the
yeah.
left below the
Thank
setup
you,
user.
thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. That's it. Yep, there we go. Use your own UI. So here's all of the information about the UI. So this is what we call the trigger label and the trigger aerial label. And then we've got the form title, the name label, blah, 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 blah. And so you can make changes to things as you see fit. Here's changing kind of what it looks like, either in CSS or JavaScript. Theme priority. Okay. Anyways, yes, lots of ways that you can change that. Okay, so we'll go ahead and send bug report. It'll say thank you for your report. And then now we'll go ahead and hop over back into Sentry and we will refresh this. We still didn't get an error because it wasn't actually an error that was happening, but we did get user feedback. So right now we've got this user feedback. It says something isn't working. We've got this screenshot that isn't super helpful. We can actually automatically, so we can connect this up to GitHub. We can create a GitHub issue from this, which will link to our user feedback. So this page that we're looking at. With some additional information, and we can automatically assign it to somebody, automatically apply labels. This is all from our GitHub repository that we have linked here. We can also just link to an existing issue and just add in a comment to this. So again, all of this is, you don't have to do all of this. This is just whatever works best for your workflow with your engineers and your teams. We try to help leverage that. You can assign this automatically from inside of Sentry. You can mark it as spam, as unread, or resolved. We do automatic spam detection. So if it seems like some user feedback is spam, we don't want to waste your time and make you mark it as spam. So we do automatic spam detection, and you'll find that over here. So we don't just delete it for you, but you will find it there. Below this screenshot, you'll see what URL the feedback was given on. You'll see a replay. You'll get some basic tags. And then you can also have some internal conversations about this one and be like, oh, I think this one actually is spam, or, you know, Lazar, can you please actually take a look at this one? I think it might be here, but I don't actually know. But what is likely going to be the most useful is checking out the user feedback. So we can click on play oh, that wasn't super useful. We got replay start, user feedback, click. Is that because I took too long?
Yeah, you talked too much at the beginning. So that
Let's try this
window went
again.
down.
We're gonna try this again. We're gonna go Zara, create. There is ways of changing this.
I think there's
But
like initially there's like a 30-second window, but you can change that.
broken. Yeah, I was talking a lot, so that makes sense. Okay, so we're gonna pop back over here and we're going to let this refresh. And
Guess
now
where it
it's
is?
fast, so
Guess where it is?
where is it?
It's in the spam.
Is it really? Oh, because I just wrote broken. You're right, it is. It is. That's probably because the detection here was probably that it quickly, like I did it so fast. That's the problem with demoing, is I'm either talking too much or I'm not talking enough. So I'm going to move this to inbox. Okay, so we've got broken here, same information that we have. Now let's actually see the full replay. All right. So you can see the breadcrumbs are following along. We had a button, user click. Okay, so right here, let's see, we got the user click to add, and then we added it in, and then this went back to there, and then we got this thing here, and then we did the feedback.
You can see that there's like 4 digits in the input. You don't know what the value is, but you can see that there's like 4 characters inside. Yeah. So
Yeah.
like that will give you a hint of what it could be, right?
Interesting.
You could have like unit tests that cover this, but in this case, turns out you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna try something else then. I want to see, because I'm debugging here. That one said it was created. No. No. All of these seem really long though, so let me try this, like. Says it was created. I don't know. This is tricky. No. What is the fewest number?
Try hitting a refresh, see what happens.
You think maybe it's just
Maybe. It's a
maybe
bug. We need to
maybe
find
there's
it.
an actual bug that we don't know how to fix. No, I don't know, dude. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I feel like you gave me a pretty big clue. But that does make sense that someone might be able to figure that out. If we went into the full replay, I wonder if we could. I mean, I
Oh, yeah,
think.
we could look at the trace and stuff, but we saw that the issue is when creating a category, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, and the user use like 4 digits, right? So that's basically what we need. We can try doing that locally, which we did with the user and the developer in this case, and we see that it doesn't work. So this is where we'll start to open, the IDE and look at some code because
yep,
you know, we have actually experienced this ourselves. Yeah, there's the create category dialog.
yep.
It
So I
does
went into
send,
manage categories, create category dialog,
yeah.
and
Await fetch, the toast success, category created. So this basically says that category created all the time, right? Even though if something happens on the back end, we'll still show category created. But that's not the issue, right? It's just wrong reporting of the actual issue. We need to go to the API routes
yep,
and see. Yeah. So first bug that we have is that we're always saying category created and we're not actually checking on the actual result.
yep.
But
So
here, let's see.
we should probably add a comment here that says, oops, not there. Add a comment here that says,
Yeah, to do. Exactly.
all right, so let's hop in here. Oh, check this out.
Yep. So the server does return a response.
Yeah, we just weren't capturing that.
Yeah. So if we open the network tab, we'll see that it actually name must return, name must contain at least 5 characters. If you scroll down, you should see that. There we go.
There it
400. What is the response?
is.
If we capture that, yeah, we need to enable capturing it.
But we did at least see
Yeah, and it's a
that we got a
400.
400 in the network tab.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is what, even if we don't have uh the response back, we can see that it's 400. If we open the code, we'll see 2 cases where we're returning 400.
Yeah.
Either the name must be at least 5 characters or the category already exists. If we captured the response, we'll see the actual message that the API returns. Which one is it, right?
It's true.
Yeah,
Okay.
both are the, bad requests. So there's 2 ways out of this, right? Either we turn on the capture response, or we just, try this in Chrome and we'll see that actual message appear.
Right. If we actually just opened up DevTools.
Yeah. Try creating a new category again. There's the 400. And the response is, it is a bad request. We can see that. Click on the response again.
Right.
Must be at least 5 characters. Yeah, so even if as Emily said, I wish bug reports were that detailed. Non-detailed bug reports with session replay, you will still get the idea that, something was happening while the user was trying to create a category with just four letters. So if you try to replicate that locally, you'll see
Yeah. So
that might be the case.
the kind of steps for me in this situation would be if I got a user feedback, for me, my first thing, awesome. Thank you so much for joining. You can check out the rest of this later or try to find the bugs on your own. Let us know. Um, you can see, so what I would personally do is I would first note kind of where this is coming from. I would take a look at the full replay. If that doesn't give me, I do get some context here, as Lazar was mentioning, right? We can see that it was only 4 characters, but maybe that doesn't necessarily trigger right away. But I can just see that that's happening. And then I would take a look at all of these different tabs. And again, that's why we have these different tabs here, because not everything is going to have valuable information every single time. And it depends on what the issue is. So the breadcrumbs don't really show me much. The console just doesn't really give me a ton of information. It's like, okay, yeah, that seems relatively regular. The network tab is where we can see that 400 error. And if we're not capturing the response, we can do that. We can add that in. But alternatively, like Lazad mentioned, now that we actually know that we're getting a 400 response, then you can recreate as close to what the user was doing as possible. So in that case, you would likely want to try to leverage the number of characters that they were using to try to figure that out. And then that should hopefully be able to show you in your dev tools. So again, whether it's kind of this is meant to be actionable. There isn't just one set of things that you should be doing at all times. What you should be doing is debugging, and we're just trying to give you as much context into that as possible. Okay, we've got about 30 minutes left, and I want to make sure we have time for Q&A as well. So we're going to move on to the next one without fixing this one yet.
Yep.
Actually, do you need this one fixed?
Well,
No.
we saw that it's the, the
Yeah, yeah.
client doesn't handle. Yeah,
Okay.
try updating a flashcard. Let's see that
We're gonna
one.
try updating a flashcard now. So we'll come into here and we'll click edit. I don't think a licensed granite shirt belongs in home. I think that is like technically going to be a shirt that is used on a garden gnome. So I'm gonna say that belongs in garden.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, it says
Nice.
it was updated. That didn't get updated.
Hit refresh, maybe.
Okay.
Interesting.
Should that have been updated?
I guess it should have been, but maybe that's a bug.
Maybe it is a bug. No, no new issues. Should I
Honestly, that
update?
should have been a slowdown. Try the last one. Try like one of the flashcards, like at a bit lower.
Mine just
Yeah.
seems to not be updating though.
Yeah, that's like a different issue.
Yeah, let's put this in kitchen.
Kitchen.
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
There's my slowdown. All right, and I also did a little bit of rage clicking there. Just so look
Oh,
at
look at
that.
that one. Yeah.
Nice, nice.
Yeah. So this should have been caught,
All right, let's
but
see.
we'll see. Yeah. Because this is a slowdown.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna need to look at the performance.
Yep.
Yeah. So just like before, it'll either get a user feedback from the widget, but we should see there's the post API, right? We're hitting the post API slash flashcards, that one.
Should we show them performance first? We didn't really show this page. If you go to the performance tab,
Mhm.
you're going to get a couple of kind of widgets up at the top. This is going to be not as useful because this is just being run locally, and it's just my personal project. But you'll get some general performance scores broken down into all of the web vitals that you are likely kind of tracking. You'll see any of the most time-consuming queries. You'll get what we call user misery, transactions per minute, and then failure rate. And you can change these as you see fit to whatever you care about most. And then in addition to that, you'll get some information here. These are kind of the transactions where you might be wanting to monitor what is happening on your performance. And we can see that there are two things happening. One is the example front end has 100% failure rate. That's that example front end error that we kind of were demoing when you started with the Sentry demo page, example page. But then also we have this one right here, which is getting a 66% error rate. And this is that put categories, which actually that's put categories, not put. This is the post, which is not getting an error rate or failure rate.
Yeah.
the sample page, but we are getting some decent slowdown. If we're ignoring kind of the example front end span, right? So the example ones we want to ignore for now. Those are going to show some big slowdowns, obviously. But we've got some slowdowns on manage page in general. And then we have slowdown here on, I mean, it's not super slow though. And then a get 404. That one was an error. So you're saying I should look into here
Yeah, in the
because
posts, API flashcards, and then the ID.
that looked slow.
Yeah, so now let's try the sampled events and we'll see what we get there. Yeah, look at that.
Wow. 5 seconds.
So that should not be the case, right? And what we
Yes.
can do in this case is like we can create a an alert that sends us an email whether, when a transaction passes that 1 second throughput or 50 milliseconds, depending on how, confident we feel that our backend should handle these. Yeah, should handle these. So there we go, above 300 milliseconds. That's critical. In this
Yep.
case, it's like 5 seconds, so it's critical.
Definitely critical. And then we can
Yeah,
add whether you want like here, maybe I'll just do
yeah,
this.
Slack it. Yeah,
We'll do that. And then
yeah. So basically, this is how you can also create a. And there it is.
perfect.
Yeah, this is how you can also create an alert to let you know, even though if there's no error, slowdowns can also happen. Uh, I don't think we get to talk about. I don't think we get to talk about database queries and database slowdowns, but there's also an option to monitor database queries and get automatically alerted when your database queries stop. By the way, this is happening in Next.js production and not dev mode, and I should have tested it. So it does work nicely if you just do npm run dev, but I need to update it. So my demo is broken. I told you we didn't pray to the demo gods.
We
But yeah,
definitely
the idea is to see that slowdown. And if we go to the performance and go to the post again, there it is, and go and check out the sampled event, open one of them, whichever, we get to see these HTTP server sent to post, and they all take 6.5 seconds, but they don't give us much,
yeah.
right? That's because we're not tracing anything on the back end. So something happens within those 6.5 seconds, but we don't know what. So
So
let's,
ideally, the way that you're setting up your applications is that you are not just using Sentry in the front end, but you're also
yeah,
using in the back end so that you can have those traces be more effective.
exactly.
As I
So we
was
want to
saying,
connect them.
yeah, we do have some information here, like, oh, this post is taking that long, but it would be nice if that kind of dug in deeper.
Exactly,
The way
yeah.
with
So
kind
let's
of
do that.
all right, let's do it. What
Yeah.
do I do?
Go back to your IDE. And because this project uses Prisma, we need to add one more integration in the server config.
All right,
Go
let's
to
do
the
it.
Sentry server config. There we go. And do you have integrations? No, just add that as as an array. Integrations. There we go. And inside, we want to add the Sentry.Prisma integration. Prisma integration. There we go. And just like invoke it. And it doesn't need anything. Yeah. No new for this. Just Sentry.Prisma. There we go.
And then we need
That's it. And we're missing a comma. There we go. So this will automatically find the Prisma SDK that we have configured, and it will instrument things automatically for us. So rebuild and run again. Try updating a flashcard to trigger a new transaction, and we'll see some more data in the backend
beautiful.
this time, but it won't be enough. So we'll do something even, we'll do one more thing to make sense of everything.
All right, I'm excited.
There we go. Metal soap. Bathroom. Yeah. Yeah, this is very slow. Nice. Okay, let's check out the new transaction now and let's see what happens. The new trace should be a bit more detailed this time. Maybe too detailed. Okay. Oh, look at that.
Beautiful. Look at all of that. So for each one of these times, because I did a lot of rage clicking, so for each one of these posts, you can expand it. You can see that there's 143 things
Mhm.
that are happening. And you can kind of,
This is basically what happens on the back end,
right.
literally. So that little plus icon just expands and gives you a little window what happened on the back end while the HTTP request was happening triggered from the front end. So that's the trace. Basically see everything.
You can see every single thing that was happening and in
Yeah.
what order and at what timestamp. And it's not one big thing that's the issue. That would be nice and easy.
Yeah.
But it's just
Yeah, so I click on the DB span right there. These are all spans. Span is like the smallest unit of work. And the Prism integration actually creates these spans for us automatically. So we don't have to, right? So if you expand the trace details panel from the bottom one, no, no, just expand it. Let's see what's in there.
oh, this? Which one?
The panel and the bottom. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I forgot that I went down.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, so like click on the DB span now and you should see some interesting information.
Yeah,
There we go.
there
Okay,
we
see, you even have the SQL query
Yep.
as part, as part of your trace, so you can see and debug what query is being invoked. But yeah, you get all these details. So, but it still looks like, looking at the actual trace with the 143 spans, you're going to see something, like you're going to notice something. Scroll all the way to the top. And, there we go. Like zoom in the at the start of the span right there. Mm, there we
All right.
go. See how they're like one after the other, like a waterfall. Yeah, that gives us an idea. Like if we zoom in and expand that one, we'll see the query, we'll see what's happening. But let's put some things into perspective. Let's go back into the IDE because this is like we're hit with like 140 queries. First of all, that's actually the problem. We're doing 140 queries on the backend to, just to update a card, a flash card. So let's go back to the API, the route handler. There we go. So now we're going to start wrapping things, especially the database stuff, right? Flashcards, that's the put. We need the post, right? Oh, it's in the ID. Sorry, it's in the ID. And there we go.
Yeah, because we're actually updating it.
Exactly. So we are going to wrap our queries. See helpers dot get flashcard by ID. We're gonna wrap that with a start span function from Sentry's package. Because that will help us create our own spans, just like we saw in the trace view there. So start typing in like start span, you'll see the start span. There you go. Yeah. So the first object is the first argument is an object, the second argument is the callback. So created like an empty object in the first argument. Before that, on the left. No, yeah. Before
Here?
that, yeah. There we go. And now the callback will be helpers.get flashcard by ID, just like cut it. Helpers.get flashcard by ID. There we go. That's going to be the callback. You don't need the curly brackets because we just want to return whatever helpers is returning, right? So the start span will return what the callback returns, which is the existing flashcard, right? So you can cut out the const existing flashcard equals await that whole part and put it before the start span. Put it before the start span. There we go. And now you can get rid of that line. Beautiful. So this is how we wrap our own custom, operations with custom spans. So let's actually put some info in the span in the first argument right there. It just simply needs a name and an operation. So let's give it a name. This is going to be the get flashcard by ID, for example. Not a name as a parameter, as a property, sorry. Name, colon,
Oh, as a property.
as a property, yeah.
Is
And
it
just put it a string, yeah. You can type in anything you want in here. There we go. So after the name, we get to we can also add an operation, and this is optional if we, which is just OP, sorry. It's just OP, it's short for operation. What is the operation that we're doing? If we want to track database stuff, we need to get the SQL and put it there, but we don't have that, so we can just name it as a function, for example. Just function, which is by default the case. So we have get flashcard by ID wrapped with our own custom span. Now let's do the same and wrap the other helpers invocation at the bottom, a bit lower. There's the get category, and there's also the update flashcard. So we can, yeah, update flashcards.
and then
And
we
pass
all
those two.
update.
The existing flashcard ID and also the update data. Yeah. Nice. There we go. We have one more at the top, I think, which is the category. Not at the very top, but you'll see it. There it is. Get category by ID. Nice. And just rename it instead of update. Just do get category by ID. Right, so let's say helpers dot get category by ID does something, right? We don't need to get into it, but we just want to wrap everything with a span. So let's rebuild and start again, and let's see. We'll try to update a flashcard again, and we'll see with our custom spans, we're going to see in which part, more specifically, the slowdown happens. So if we want to fix this, we'll know where we want to look into.
For example, is it happening when you're getting the flashcard by
Yeah.
ID, when you're getting the category by ID, or when you're updating the flashcard by ID?
Exactly. Yeah. Like here we saw that we're doing a lot of, database queries. Let's see which part of those three actually produces the most. There we go. And for those of you watching this, sometimes these transactions might not show up. If they do, that's because there's like dynamic sampling in place. So you just trigger them again. All right, so we saw it at the top, Sarah. If you scroll up, you'll see not all the way up, but like where the HTTP request is. This is still the page. Oh, there we go, HTTP server. And then we have get flashcard by ID, right? So toggle that one. Then we'll have another one. Go a bit up. Yeah, like toggle that one. We don't want to see all of the 143. Is there more to it?
Nope.
That's the only thing, right? Okay, so that means there's probably an error happening somewhere there. But where is it was get category by ID or get flashcard by ID?
Get flashcard by ID.
No. So that helper method produces all these
Yep.
spans. If we get into it, we'll see something. Like go back to the ID and get what was the helper?
Oh, that's because we put them in the yeah, get flashcard by ID.
Yeah, find that span. Yeah, that's the one, right?
Yep.
Now get into the flashcards. Helpers, get flashcard by ID, get into that one. And okay, there's a while true. So we're trying to find the flashcard with the ID of index, which is 0. If it's the one that we're looking for, it returns it. Otherwise, it waits for 20 milliseconds and then it increments the index, and then it goes for the second one. But this can basically be just const flashcard equals await prisma flashcard find first, where the ID is not indexed, but just the ID that we accept from the arguments, right?
Yep.
Because we already got it. Okay, let's try that one instead. Just ID instead of ID colon index. Let's just do ID and return that await without the while, without the index, without the const flashcards. Just return that. No, inside, yeah, inside of the undo that one. And inside of, yeah, inside of that part, yeah. So delete that whole while and index.
Where did I just, oh, there it is.
There we go. And we just need to return that one. So yeah, that's where all these spans came from, because we looped, removed the curly on line 39, or do that. Yeah. Okay, so that's how we zeroed in, and notice that the get flashcard by ID,
Was very inefficient.
yeah, it was a very inefficient function, and that function actually did all of the slowdown for us. But we got to see that because we added those custom spans, which we named accordingly. So we saw get flashcard by ID takes all of the entire time. So let's just like zero in into it, and
Yep.
we get to see. Yeah, this is basically how we can use Sentry to literally zero in on the exact function that causes all the issues.
Look at that, much faster.
Yeah. It's not to say that there's like no, that you fix this one and that's it. There could be more down the road, but yeah, we're down to 600 milliseconds, which is really good.
Yep. And now we're not doing it 143 times.
Nice. So there's the get flashcard by ID. Then what do we have at the bottom there?
Now
Get
we've got
category by ID. So that's like 600, but it has 26 iterations.
Yep.
Okay, so that's not good. I guess we can, okay, I guess we can optimize that one as well.
But we're at time, dude.
We're at time, but yeah, the next thing that I would do
Is
is just
optimize.
optimize that route, that
Yep.
function.
Questions? Does anybody have any questions?
There we go. Same thing.
While I fix this one, because I can tell Lazad really wants it fixed before we end.
Yeah, there even might be another one, but we'll see.
Yeah. If you don't have any questions, no worries. But I did want to tell you a couple other things. So, first of all, feel free to continue bug bashing. Another bug that you can try to debug is if you start a practice session. So check that out and see if you can do it. If you do, feel free to tag us on Twitter or Discord or something and let us know if you figure it out. We really just wanted to give you a chance to have a hands-on session with Sentry and see how you can leverage things like user feedback, leverage things like starting your own spans and using the tracing. And then what are they going to discover with the practice session bug, Bazar?
Sure, what was that?
What are they going to discover when they try to find the start practice session bug?
Still gonna be like the same slowdown. But now since they know how to both automatically and manually instrument their applications, they're gonna figure it out in like 5 minutes or less.
Perfect. So let us know when you figure it out. There's a question, Lazad. What is sentry.edge.config.ts for? Is it for stuff like middleware?
Exactly. Yeah, that's basically the Edge runtime configuration for Next.js for the Sentry SDK. Right. So not just the middleware, I think in Next.js, and if you deploy it on Vercel, you get to pick the runtime, which is by default Node, but you can also change it to Edge on individual AP routes and server actions, I think. So it's not just for the middleware, but it's for anything that runs on the Edge runtime. Because you want to have coverage in those environments as well.
Continue putting questions in if you have any. We want to leave you with a couple of things. So today we showed off a little bit of the trace view so that you could trace performance issues and errors. Again, this kind of gives you that unified view of your multi-service application. So if you have Sentry for front end, for back end, if you set up Sentry to monitor your database queries, you're going to be able to identify those critical issues without losing kind of the context of looking through this front end's logs and then the back end's logs and just kind of all of that mess. And then again, you can leverage kind of our automatic tracing, but you can also start your own spans and name them appropriately so it makes it much faster and easier for you to debug. Yes, it is possible to brand the Sentry feedback UI. If you go to that user feedback docs that's earlier in the chat that we just shared again, that configuration page tells you how to change everything about that, the way that that looks. We showed off two things today, session replay and user feedback. These are our features that help you get closer to your users by actually being able to get a video-like reproduction of what your user session was when errors occurred, as well as allow people to give feedback. When they do give you user feedback, as you saw, we have a session replay session associated with it, and they can add in screenshots as well. Finally, what kind of tech company would we be if we're not leveraging AI in some way? But we do try to minimize it because, again, our goal is to give you the right context to take action as quickly as possible, not to derail you and try to get you to stay inside of Sentry. So there's two specific ways that I want to highlight today. One of them is our auto fix. So being able to actually understand what your users are doing when errors occur. And could even potentially generate a pull request for you to review if we do have kind of a fix for that. We are rolling those out fairly slowly because we want to make sure that those are going to be actually useful and that it's not just a bunch of PR noise that is just something that you close all the time. So if we do kind of suggest a fix for it, we want to make sure that it's something that is likely to be merged in. And then earlier this year, we announced in collaboration with GitHub and Microsoft our Sentry Copilot extension. So if you're in Visual Studio Code and you open up the Copilot chat, you can actually install the Sentry Copilot extension within that Copilot chat, and you can pull in kind of the issue that you're facing, and it'll give you kind of a summary of what's going on and give you additional context. All right. If there's any other questions, please let us know. Here's a couple. Glad that the debugging backend and leveraging spans was useful for you. Here's a couple of links for you. Again, there's the sign up link. Feel free to sign up. Like we mentioned at the beginning, Sentry really does try to grow with you and your projects and your team. So even if you're starting out on a free developer individual account today, Sentry will grow with you as you need a larger kind of business team or even to kind of enterprise level accounts. So yeah, check it out. And then also head over to our blog, bit.ly/sentry-blog/step4 or blog.sentry.io. And we post blog posts that are, related to kind of new features and new releases, but also more kind of technical, authentic experiences that you might be facing. Some of you all in the chat have been asking about like, oh, do you have any examples of kind of debuggability versus monitoring? Yes, we've got some stuff there on the blog. If you want examples of um, like how to optimize your LCP. We've got blog posts for that, basically kind of anything that you want. And then you can find Lazar and I on pretty much all socials, Twitter, Discord, etc. And then yes, for some reason we forgot to add our Discord link to this slide, but we have it in the chat there. Just discord.gg/sentry, and you should join our Discord. We've got engineers, product managers, and advocates there to help answer any questions, support as well as there. So you can ask questions directly and let us know. Thank you all so much for joining. If you registered, you'll get an email with kind of a link to this as well. But thank you for joining however you joined, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.